Well, on this episode of My Auction Addiction, we get to look at my purchase I made last year, a Gehl 6635 SXT 2. It's got it for $5,000 down at an auction in Pennsylvania, and I think I got a good deal. I see these things go for crazy amounts of money, like $20,000 for stuff that's all broken. So yeah, I don't think it's too bad. I ended up buying the bucket at a Ritchie Brothers auction for $300. So that's been okay so far. It's not a bad little skid steer. I've had decent luck with it. When I first bought it, I ended up having to replace the final drive on this side, so it would not steer in this direction. So it ended up being the final drive was bad, and ended up finding a replacement for like $2,000 and putting that in. I didn't record it. I wasn't recording things at that time. I was just basically I like buying stuff at auction and trying to fix it. So I figured if I'm gonna do it, I might as well try to record it and see if other people want to see me struggle and fight with all this stuff. But yeah, so the issue I'm having with this thing now is that, well, it was my own fault really. I did a service on this thing and I changed the oil, and yeah, so turns out it's an oil-cooled Deutz motor, and I knew that part, but I thought there were two separate reservoirs for the oil. Turns out there's not. There's one. So when you drain the oil, you're draining the entire oil system, and yeah, when I put oil back into it, I didn't fill it up, so it ended up running basically without coolant, if you want to call it that. And yeah, it started making horrible noises, so I shut it off, and then realized my mistake too late, of course. And so I've been trying to fix it ever since. So I was hoping that it was something simple, like on the top end. So I last week, 2 weeks ago, I tried to take the top end apart, and I did take it apart and cleaned it up, and there's just so much oil blow by that it's just you really can't even, you can run this thing, but it's not happy about it. So yeah, so I'm gonna start this thing up. Well, try to start this thing up, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Let's see if it'll even cooperate with me. So this thing's got 5,300 hours on it, so not horrible, but not young either. So maybe that's probably why I got it for $5,000. So yeah, we'll start this thing up and you'll be able to hear it. It sounds pretty rough. You can hear me feathering the throttle, trying to get this thing to come alive. Once it warms up a little bit, it'll run on its own, but in the beginning it can't run. And you can see all the smoke coming out. It's definitely not happy about this. So if I can get this thing to idle, I'll go show you guys. Yep, looks like it'll idle for me. But it's not happy about it. Yeah, you can even hear it. It sounds bad. Smoke pumping out. Initially I thought that was coming out of the head gasket. It looks like it's coming out of the valve cover. So it's getting so much blow by that it pushed the cover for the vent cover for this and threw it off of the floor. So yeah, I did a compression test and the compression was not great. So basically 150 on cylinder 1, which is the one closest to the front. It was 150, 300, 150, 400, and they're all supposed to be over 400, and so not great. Put oil down the cylinders, and then tried it again, and it went up quite a bit. It was like 300, 350, 300, and 450. So yeah, more than likely I burned the piston rings, and I just have to hope that I didn't destroy anything on the bottom end. So what I'm hoping I can do is get this thing up onto a little pit I made, and hopefully I can get access to the bottom side. I can raise the engine up a little bit to get the oil pump off, or sorry, the oil pan off. We'll see. Right now I'm going to try to drive it over to the area and see if I can get it up on it. See if I can stick you guys on here and see how this works. Well, so we made it up in the air. Terrifying as that was, we made it though. Yep. Yeah, and I'm getting these retaining wall blocks for pretty cheap. I want to say they were like 60 bucks a piece or something like that. And yeah, I mean, this isn't OSHA approved or ultimately safe, but I doubt it's going to go anywhere. And I do have a lift in the lift bay in the garage. It's a lot of work getting this thing on a lift. You know, you have to take the tracks off, which are heavy. You know, then get it in there, jack it up, take the tires off to be able to even get under the lift, or I mean, get the lift underneath the skid steer. So it's definitely a lot of work to get that done. But yeah, my hope is that, you know, I can get underneath here, you know, drain the oil, and let's go look underneath and we'll see what we're looking at. And maybe me personally, for $5 grand, I don't think I got a bad deal. But yeah, I mean, that's water dripping. But yeah, underneath here is all the hydraulic stuff, and then underneath here's the engine, access to the engine. But they don't give you a lot of room. So I'll try to get my tripod in here and set you guys up, see if we can maybe get lucky and move some of this oil pan out. Alright, so we got a few tools, and we're going to take off this bottom plate here, see if we can drain the oil out of this thing. Hopefully it goes well. What's that? I'm guessing 3/4. Well, Gehl, so it's, I think they were, maybe are, made in Wisconsin. So I think it should be standard stuff, in theory. Okay, not so bad. Oh, a little bit of water. All right. Okay. So, let's see here. plenty of nasty stuff on the bottom of that, that's for sure. Ooh, I don't know what that is. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Can you see that deformation in the tank? The oil pan? I really hope that's supposed to be there, but I don't know, that seems a little odd. Hopefully I didn't throw a rod. I mean, you'd think my compression would be a lot lower if I broke something like that. I don't see about draining this thing. What size is that? That's an Allen of some type. Wow. It's a big one. Alright. There's that. Let's try to break this free first. Oh, smokes. Oh, wow. There we go. Oh, I see a copper ring. So I got a 15 quart thing in my hand. So hopefully it's not more than that. I should be able to remember since I just did a service on it, but I can't. Yeah, I mean, I can't remember if this is more than 15 quarts or not. I'm gonna find out though. Let this thing drain. Yeah, I could use one of those fancy ones that I have inside, you know, for the lift, but yeah, getting it out here on the gravel driveway is less than ideal, so we'll try this. Hopefully it don't make too big of a mess. I have to break out all the cleaning supplies. Looks like it's about 10 quarts so far. I mean, it's dribbling, but I think it's about 2/3 of the way full. And that is a deep oil pan. I don't know. I got that sneaking suspicion that we're gonna have to pull this engine most of the way out of this thing in order for it to work. I don't know. I mean, that oil pan is probably, what, 7 inches deep? Pretty sure they make it so you can't drop it out this hole. I'm not even sure if you can get access to the oil pan bolts. I don't think you can. Yeah, I don't think you can. It's just gonna make a mess everywhere. Good enough for now. Alright, the oil's drained. I'm probably gonna have to lift this whole engine up. Which means I'll have to support the pump, because the pump has no mounts. just kind of floating in the air off of the flywheel of this thing. There's a little plastic thing in between the flywheel and the pump, so that way it shatters if the pump binds up. But yeah, let me do a little more digging and figure out how to get this thing apart, and yeah, I'll get back to you guys. So that's a little better view of what I'm working with. There's really not a lot of room. You can see the pump up front, the blue thing. Yeah, it has no mounts on it. So basically I'll have to try to support the front. Other than that, I have to disconnect the two things, which is going to be a pain. Separate the pump from the engine. But if I'm going to do that, I'm taking this whole thing right out of here. I'm not going to fight with it. But yeah, the mounts are way down in the bottom. You probably can't see them, but yeah, there's a ton of. There's only 4 mounts that I've seen, so it shouldn't be horrible. Yeah, I mean, taking off the air cleaner, that stuff's fine. But so you can see that here's the radiator, but it's oil cooled, so there's oil running through this. So I'd have to take this off. I'm gonna have to take this off either way. Let's take this off. Let's take the shroud off, the fan off. Yeah, it drained the oil already, so it shouldn't be too bad to disconnect some of this stuff. It's just too bad that I can't take the oil pan off. That the hole wasn't big enough, to take the whole oil pan right off. But it is what it is. This is joys of working with equipment. But shouldn't be too bad. I'll set you guys up and we can start tearing into this. Alright, so I'm going to try to take off some of the basics. I'm going to try to take off the exhaust, the intake, the rest of the intake, just to get better access. I'm going to have to take it off anyway. So I took this stuff off earlier, not earlier, but a little while ago when I did the engine head. I ended up replacing the head gasket, hoping. The head gasket didn't look bad, but I replaced it anyway because it came with the kit. And obviously, as you could tell, it didn't actually fix the issue, but it's worth a shot, It's worth a shot. So let's see, so it's a Deutz motor. So this is where it gets, it's a Gehl machine. So that's Wisconsin. So that's standard. But Deutz is German, so metric, and it's got a lot of these weird E fittings. They're not even triple squares. I think they're called E Torx or something close to that. So yeah, you can use a 12 point, or maybe it was a 6 point, I can't remember, but it doesn't fit just right, so it's less than ideal. But in a pinch, it'll work. So yeah, so I'm gonna take off some of these clamps and hold everything on. Try to anyway, if I can get my tools out. Okay, that's loose. Enough. Down in here. Well, I don't really need to loosen that one up, but I'll loosen this one up. I'll take this whole intake pipe off as a unit instead of messing around. That's probably good. Okay. Take out the one that attaches to the intake side of the turbo. Alright, that's pretty loose. Okay. Then attach it to the intake. Okay. Nice and simple. Alright, I'm going to take off where the looks like it's almost like a PCV system where the oil comes from the crank and then goes over to the intake side of the turbo. Probably some type of emissions thing, since they probably can't have the slobber tube and just drain it on the ground like they used to do. Nope, just still tight, too tight. Alright, so let's see if I can get you guys an angle of what I'm doing with this. Alright, so now I need to take off right inside of there. I need to take off these two bolts there and there that hold on this filter, and yeah, nothing too crazy about that. So I'm gonna try to do that. I really can't set you up anywhere where you'd be able to see it without seeing my fat body in the way. No one wants to see that, so we'll try to get you out of the way. Right. Whoever came up with these ratcheting wrenches, yeah, they definitely deserve some type of an award. They make life so much easier. So I'm just taking off those two bolts, hold on this intake, to make it easier to get access to those 10mm bolts that are holding on that oil line. Yeah, they didn't make it impossible, but they didn't make it easy either. This machine does have quite a bit of power. I want to say this engine puts out like something around 90 horsepower, which, you know, this machine weighs I think like 8,000 pounds or so. It's definitely got some oomph when it works, when someone doesn't let it run without oil and ruin it. Hopefully not, but yeah, more than likely, you know. Engines definitely don't like to be ran without oil. Okay, there's that. This out of the way. Let's move this stuff out of the way so I can move it. Alright, disconnect the intake. Turbo. Don't want to run that. Oh, too late. Already run it. Whoops. Right. Right, intake's gone. Gives me a little more room in here. I'm gonna face them out like that. That way I can catch myself on them, you know. We don't want to make my job too easy. Okay. And the turbo should be free. Not the turbo, sorry. I wish the turbo was free. Now I at least have access to these bolts down here. This oil line. this thing has a purpose. Maybe just gets just enough oil to the intake side of the turbo. I mean, the turbo's got 2 oil lines running to it, right? An oil line running to it, an oil line running to the tank. So who knows? Maybe it needs both. I'm sure there's a reason. I'm sure these engineers didn't put it there just for shits and, or, sorry, for S's and G's. Don't want YouTube to yell at me. Put these screws back in so I don't lose them. Alright, that's free. So I'll take off and attach it to the turbo. That's out. Alright, so I'm going to move you over here. I'm going to try to take off the exhaust side of things now. Don't know if I have enough room or not, or if even it's, I doubt it's a 1/2 inch. Well, that was a 1/2 inch. Or a 13 is what I have in my hand, but let's see what it is. And of course, those are 12mm or 7/16. Can I get them with the socket? I can get some of them. Just gonna fight me. Of course. Alright, so now I gotta get back up here to lift this cab up. I already disconnected took apart the bolts that hold it. So it's just the manual labor of actually lifting this thing. And it gets caught there. Alright, the lock engaged, good. And now I can at least get better access to the turbo. You can see there's there's those bolts I was trying to get to. Let's see where I can set you up. So you can see a couple of them. And let's see. I gotta try to get inside of here. Well, that was less than ideal. Wrench went all the way on the ground. Alright, I'm gonna try to go get that. Alright, got my wrench back. I'll try to do that without. I might have to use a crow's foot. Might have to. I think let's use a crow's foot. Alright, let's try this with a crow's foot and see if I can get it off of there. Alright. I have to do 1/8 of a turn at a time, but I think it might work. Alright, that came free. Oh, can't get it off because of the how close it is. I definitely can't see well, huh? Alright, I feel like that let loose. Let's see if I can do it by hand. Nope, not quite. Feels like I should, but let's try it again. Yeah. Alright. Oops. Oh, that's gone forward. Alright, but the exhaust is free-ish, so let's get that out of the way. Go back over to the other side. But yeah, you can see kind of what I was talking about with the pump. So the pump just, you know, you have one that controls one final drive, one controls another final drive. And then I'm guessing one is the main pump and one is the auxiliary hydraulics. Some solenoids. There's a little valve body, controls all my functions. One nice thing about this machine is everything's mechanically attached. You know, everything goes right to the joysticks. There's no electronics, you know, not to speak of anyway. There are some like solenoids, but there's no computer controlled things. So it makes things much easier to work on and hopefully much easier to fix. But yeah, so this is how it attaches. This is the bell housing. I might have to actually separate that. It looks like it attaches. The engine mounts are down inside there. There and there. For this side, I don't know, maybe if I strap this side up, the pump up, I can jack the engine up enough? I'm not entirely sure. Although this is pretty easy access, so to split this motor I could just undo all these Allen bolts that hold it together. It might just be as simple as that. So I don't know, but I gotta start getting ready for work. But this was a good step in the right direction. I'll take off that exhaust and put all my tools away and try this again tomorrow. See if we can get more accomplished.